This is my third video about my sink. It's an awesome sink, but why am I making a third video about my sink? Because now I have a whole new system. Let's check it out. And if you're not interested in the sink, then just, let it play in the background and hit the thumbs up and come back next time because there'll be a whole other thing going on then.
Maximalist mini bars with Mary and Captain and you. Get on the bus!
When I built the bus in 2018, I knew I wanted a sink. Now, you don't necessarily need a sink. Lots of people in buses, vans, and other vehicles, they don't bother putting in a sink. Cat doesn't have a sink, for example, but I love this sink. It originally came from my antique store in California. It's made of ceramic called Talavera pottery because it's from the Talavera region of Mexico. This sink was one of the first things I put in the bus, and it's still here 2 rebuilds later, so I guess it's not going anywhere. Besides the cuteness, I do like being able to do all those sinky kind of things like washing the dishes easily in the bus. When I put it in, I had no clue how I was going to set up the water part of the sink. It sat there for the first year I had the bus, just kind of waiting for me to figure things out, and I finally did. In 2019, I installed a foot pump sink, and I made a video about it. I chose that because it really was a very simple option. See how easy that was? Most people on the skoolie build groups and stuff like that were installing these 12-volt electric water pumps, and they were hooked into their fancy electrical systems. I don't have a fancy electrical system, and back then I had no electrical system, so a foot pump sink was the best option for me. A foot pump sink is just like it sounds. It's a foot pump. You step on it and water comes out of the faucet. It's a pretty simple build, like plumbing light, or not really, like plumbing that isn't even really plumbing. And it doesn't require a power source except your foot. And I had a couple of those, so I was good. At one point I had to install a new one because I let the water freeze in the system and that broke the pump, which is why I have 2 videos about my sink. If you want to put in a foot pump sink, watch one of those, watch both of those, and they'll get the job done. And it's still a really valid option, especially because it really saves water, because you only get a spurt of water every time you step on it. So yeah, it's really good for conserving water. When I rolled the bus over, as we headed into the rebuild, I had to decide whether to reinstall my foot pump sink or go in a little bit of a different direction. I chose the foot pump sink initially, like I said, because it was the simplest thing available, but a lot has changed in the 5 years I've had this bus, and it's not the simplest option anymore. See, a foot pump sink has multiple potential failure points. If either the intake or the output hose isn't clamped just right, you could have a leak, or if the membrane or the pump itself cracks, you can have a leak. You also need to add a faucet to the system, and again, if the output hose isn't properly attached to the faucet, then you're going to have a leak. So there's lots of opportunities for it to leak. This is a USB water pump. There are dozens of these on Amazon, like in the $8 to $20 range mostly, and they're designed for sitting on top of a 5 or 3 gallon water bottle, and they work great that way. Just plunked right on there, hit the button, and the water comes out. I had gotten this one a few months earlier, and I was using it on top of a water bottle that was sitting on the counter, but I decided when we were heading into the rebuild to install it to work with the sink. See, this is USB rechargeable, which is really convenient, and if it breaks, you just go on Amazon and buy another one because they're like 10 bucks. The old sink vanity had gotten smashed up in the crash, so I bought this dry sink in Tucson with the plan of making it into a wet sink. Kat and Kathy spruced it up during the rebuild, and Michael cut the oval for the sink to fit into. I caulked it in there later. I wanted the water pump to sit next to the sink like a regular faucet, and Michael came up with a great idea for how to mount it. He used a hole saw, like this hole dozer of mine that I love, and he used that to partly cut through. The center drill made a hole big enough for the hose to wind down into, while the hole cutter blade made an indentation that was like the same size as the bottom of the pump. I ended up getting a new water pump though, because this one, which I had it for a while, it started behaving really strangely after the crash. When you hit the button, it wouldn't stop anymore. You could start the water, but then it would just keep coming out, and then sometimes it would just randomly turn itself on, just spit a little water out. So I ordered this one. I love this one. largely because it is yellow, like my beautiful refrigerator. It also comes in a lot of different colors, so you can get it in any color you want. It fits perfectly in the same indentation that Michael made for the other one. I replaced the hose with a longer hose that I bought separately on Amazon, and I'll show you why. Let's look at how it works. The hose runs down through this hole and comes out here under the sink. The old hose was short, so it could only pull water out of this 3-gallon jug to about the halfway point, and then I'd have to pick up the 5-gallon jug and pour water from the 5-gallon jug into the 3-gallon jug to fill it back up. And this jug is heavy. Water is heavy. So the new hose I put on is long enough to reach all the way to the bottom of the 5-gallon jug without me having to move the jug. So I can, for the most part, empty this entire bottle. And then when that's empty, I can take the hose out and put it in the 3-gallon jug. And then I can drain that one to the bottom too. I'll tell you about this other bottle in a minute. After both of these are empty, I switch out bottles. I keep another 5 gallons up front. And then when all of it's empty, I go to a water kiosk. Most of the water stations here in the desert towns have 5 gallons for $1. So, to fill up all of this is under $3. How much water you carry is really going to be up to you. I carry a total of 13 gallons because it's pretty much all I have room for. That's broken out into 2 5-gallon jugs and 1 3-gallon. I would have all 5s, but this space here is slightly narrower because of the wheel well, and the 5-gallon jug is just a hair too wide. Now, Kat, on the other hand, she's got 2 dogs, and one of them drinks like a couple of gallons of water a day. So she carries, like 85 million gallons of water, but she doesn't have a sink. So she prefers to keep her water in 1-gallon jugs because they're easier to pick up and pour out of. I could fit a lot more water under here if I chose to, but I'm using the other side of the undersink area for my toilet, which is also new, and I'll tell you about that in another video. Captain is tiny and he doesn't drink much, and I drink a lot of these things, these carbonated waters. You can really do water any way you want, but if you want a sink that feels like something like a sink in a house, a version of what I've done here is really going to be a good option. And the build is so easy that it feels weird to even call it a build. Up here, all you do, hit the button and you get water. If I hit this button, I get 600 milliliters, which is like 20 ounces. So I'll use that if I'm filling up a pot to make pasta. But otherwise, I use this button. You push it once to start it. Push it again to stop it. Just feels like a regular sink, except it doesn't have hot water. I have a different system for hot water, but I rarely use it because unlike this setup, it's not simple. It requires 12-volt power. It requires propane. I use it only for showers, and if I need a small quantity of hot water, I just heat it up on the stove. I'll show you the shower system in another video. This little 1-gallon jug here, this is where my gray water goes. After I wash the dishes or drain the pasta or whatever, the water runs down the drain, and the drain pipe on this is a dishwasher hose. It's just connected to the drain, and it runs down the drain and into this bottle. If you saw the foot pump sink videos, I had a big blue 4-gallon thing, and I don't have that because I don't have that kind of space in this setup. Plus, I decided it's better to use my space for actual drinking water. I only keep a 1-gallon bottle here for now. I'll get a bigger one if I find like a 2-gallon that's narrow enough to fit there, but it's kind of a good thing because I don't like to let the gray water sit for a really long time because it can get a little smelly. Though it gets a lot less smelly since Skoolie Carol told me to put a little white vinegar in the bottom. Thank you, Skoolie Carol. That works great. The 1-gallon size is very easy to empty. I make a point of using environmentally safe soap so that if I have to dump any of my little gray water bottle out here in the desert, I don't feel guilty about that. I do it if that's necessary. But if you're planning to use more conventional detergents, it's better to dump it down a toilet or at an RV dump station. And that's what I do if I have the option, even with the soaps I'm using. If you want details about setting up the actual sink and the drain and all that stuff, watch the other videos because I go in a lot more detail about the drain in those, but it's very simple. It's a regular sink drain attached to a flexible plastic drain hose. Last time I used a washing machine hose running into the gray water bottle. That's pretty much it. If you think this setup could work for you, there's links in the description that are going to show you how to buy all the things that I used here. I can't get you my exact cute sink, but I did put links to a couple of Talavera sinks on Amazon. You don't even need a real sink to do this, though. I mean, you can just use a big bowl or a metal trough type thing, or even a little plastic wash basin. You know, mount that into a sink, or just pull it out and use it as a sink. I'll be showing you the whole rebuild soon, along with the transmission story. I bet you're waiting for that one, and what a story that is. Plus, more travels from 22, new travels, a million other things. So, remember, science has proven subscribing makes you smarter, liking makes you stronger, and commenting makes your hair shiny. You want those things, don't you? Subscribe, like, comment. You can have it all.